Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video I want to use Excel to create this investment fund forecaster. Okay, so I'm using Excel here to calculate what a future retirement fund balance could potentially be 20 years hence. So before I go into any real details, let me delete a lot of stuff that I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and pretty much delete all of my columns of data. There we go. And I'll go ahead and delete some of these so you can see those references. And I'll just kind of keep the text labels. There we go. So I just have my spreadsheet set up with the very basics, just some text labels. Now I did, of course, fix my view so I can scroll and still see my column up here. I'm going to go ahead and plug in some information. My start date, I'm just going to plug in January 1, 2018. So I'm working on this at the end of January, and for investment I'm just going to go ahead and plug down any number, but I'll put in $500 a month, and we just type that number in. It's something you can change around later on. Equals, and then I'm going to get that one, which is January 1st, and then I'll go to my second row and I'm going to do E of month. I'll take the cell just above it, comma 0, and that's going to give me the end of the month. But then if I edit this and I just do +1, which would be 1 day, so if I take the end of month of January +1, it's going to give me the beginning of February, and then I can bring this all the way down. Now I want to do 20 years, so ultimately I'm going to head down to December of 2027. Actually, 37 is what I want. 18, 28, 38 would be 20 years. So actually, that is almost correct. I want to go down a little bit more. There we go. So December of 37. So that's going to give me my 20 years. And if I selected all those and I use my little calculator down here in the bottom right, I can see that's 240 values, 240 months, or 20 years. Perfect. Now I'm going to modify my investment formula here just to equal my calculated investment, and then I'll make each subsequent one equal the one above it, and then I can just autofill that down. So then if I change my investment amount, all of my investment amounts will change. Okay, now to calculate the return lost. Well, I do need a fixed rate. So for my estimated rate, I'm going to put in 12%. Now, I'm getting this number because I did grab the S&P 500 returns for the last 20 years, and here they are from 88 until 2017, and the average of these is 12.16%. So I guess we can be more precise and put in 12.1%. And then I want it to display my balance 20 years hence. So I will put in equals, and I'll just scroll down to where my balance is going to be right there. Okay, now for the basic calculation. So my return loss is going to be based on this interest rate on a monthly basis, because these are all monthly investments. So I'm going to go ahead and put in equals, and I will take my annual rate, F4 to make it an absolute reference, divided by 12 so I can get a monthly rate. I'm going to multiply it, this one, by my investment, because that's all I have is $500. There we go. So I've basically gained $5. And so my balance at the end of that first one is going to be equal to my investment plus my gain. There we go. Now we get to the next month, and I'm going to be putting in another $500. So my return is going to be equal to my interest rate, absolute, divided by 12 to make it monthly. I'm going to multiply this by my previous balance plus my new investment. So basically, $1,005. And that's going to get me to $10. And my new balance is going to be equal to my old balance plus my investment plus my gain. And there we go, and I'm up to 1,015, and so forth. And we can kind of just continue this on. I can select both of these cells and just fill down, and so I'll end up with a little over $500,000. Now, of course, this is assuming that we get exactly 12.1% per year every year. And although it's okay to assume that to be an average, it's not realistic to think that you're going to get exactly that every year, because as we know, sometimes the markets go up and sometimes they go down. If I look at my historical data, there's that big 2008 decline, negative 37%. And of course, there's some years where it's pretty flat. 2015, just 1.4%. Some small years where they went down a little bit. went up a little bit. But of course, there's big years. 89 went up almost 32%. 97 over 33%. And of course, 2017 has been a very good year. So those are our historical returns. So what I'm going to do for the variable side is to see, all right, well, let's plug in the past 20 years, pretending that we're going to do that for the future 20 years. I'll just go ahead and select these 20 annual amounts, and I will copy those. And then I'll just click right up here to my first month and paste. Now, we're actually going to be ending up making it even more variable than what it was in real life, because this is per month, so an annualized return for that particular month. So let me go ahead and select all of these values now that I have them plugged into the first 20 months. I'm just going to do a copy, and I'm going to paste as I go down, and this is going to create just a wide variety of annualized returns for each month of my data. There we go. And then, pretty similar, I'm going to take a monthly version of these in order to calculate my balance returns. So I'm going to go ahead and do equals. My first variable is going to be basically this annualized rate of return. I don't want to do this as an absolute reference though, and I'm going to divide that by 12 to get a monthly rate, and I'm going to multiply that by my first monthly investment of $500. And that's going to give me a $7 return. This one turned out to be better because my annualized return for this first month was 16% versus 12.1% for all the fixed. And my balance is going to be equal to my initial investment plus my return. Now let's go on to the next month. Is this going to be equal to my annualized return divided by 12 times my previous balance plus my investment? Once again, did pretty good in that particular month. And the balance is going to be equal to my previous balance plus my investment plus any gain or loss. And there we go. Things are going pretty well, but let me go ahead and autofill this down. And we'll see that, of course, in some months we're going to have a negative return. And that's going to obviously create a loss, which would deduct from our balance or reduce our balance. Now, I do want to see how this balance looks 20 years down the future, so I'll press equals up here for this top cell. Scroll on down and click on the cell that contains my balance, year 20. And there we go. So basically what's going on is we're comparing that fixed rate of return of 12.1% per year with a variable rate of return, where we have some months and some years doing better than others. And that might give you a better idea of what is predictable for the next 20 years. Of course, you don't know if the next 20 years will do what the last 20 years will do, but it's probably the safest way to start.